He had conquered lands, thrones, and kings. They called him Suleiman the Magnificent, the Sultan of the world. But there was one thing he could never conquer: time. And when his wife, Hurrem Sultan, died, time finally came for him. The empire still sang his praises, but inside the palace, the Sultan had become a man without a heart. The day Hurrem's body left Topkapi Palace, a heavy silence fell. The harem that once echoed with her laughter was now as quiet as a tomb. Suleiman stood by the window of her old chamber, his hands trembling as he touched her belongings, her comb, a silken shawl, an unfinished letter. He remembered her words, "My Sultan, if ever my voice falls silent, remember that every breath I took was yours." Suleiman's lips moved, but no sound came. The man who had written laws for an empire could not find a prayer for his own soul. Days turned into weeks. The Sultan attended the council. He wore his crown, but his eyes were distant, looking far beyond the palace walls. The viziers whispered among themselves, "Our Padishah sits among us, yet he walks elsewhere." He spoke less and never smiled. The empire he once led with such fire now moved through the motions of his silence. When a courtier announced, "My Sultan, ambassadors from Venice await your command," Suleiman stared right through him. "Let them wait," he said. "The world can wait." Every night, he dreamed of her. Saw Hurrem walking through the palace gardens, the sun blazing in her red hair. He'd reach for her hand, and she would turn to smoke, her voice a whisper in his mind. "Do you still call me your joy, my Sultan?" He would wake up drenched in sweat, the sweet scent of amber, her favorite perfume, lingering in the air. Was it a memory, or was she haunting him? Soon, rumors spread that the Sultan was speaking to shadows, that he wandered the gardens at midnight, whispering her name. And when the wind rustled the trees, he would stop, as if waiting for her reply. Suleiman had always written poetry under the name Muhibi, the lover, but now his verses turned dark and filled with sorrow. "You left me to rule a kingdom of dust, my throne cold, my heart turned to rust. I conquered the world, yet what remains? An empty bed and love's old chains." He sealed the poem and placed it beneath Hurrem's pillow, the same place she once hid her laughter. Without Hurrem, Suleiman's world lost its rhythm. He stopped listening to music. He no longer wrote to his children. The fountains in the harem ran dry, left untouched, as if the palace itself was in mourning. The courtiers whispered, "The Sultan has aged 10 years in one." His beard turned white, and his back bent slightly. Weighed down not by his crown, but by his memories. A king can command armies, but he cannot command his heart to forget. One dawn, Suleiman left the palace without his guards. He walked to the Suleimani Mosque, a magnificent structure still under construction. A monument he had designed with Hurrem's laughter echoing in his memory. Beside it stood her tomb, simple, elegant, and draped in white marble. Kneeling, he placed his hand on the cold stone. "They call me the Magnificent," he murmured, "but what magnificence is left without you?" He stayed there for hours, praying, until the morning call to prayer rose over Istanbul. When he left, witnesses said they saw tears in the Sultan's beard and a strange peace in his eyes, as if he had finally accepted his pain. Later that week, he sat before a mirror, the same one Hurrem used to braid her hair. We saw his reflection beside hers in memory. The young Sultan, the red-haired woman, the laughter that once filled the world. He whispered, "I built mosques for God, fortresses for the empire." But none were strong enough to hold her. For every victory he had ever claimed, Mohacs, Belgrade, Rhodes none could fill the silence she left behind. History's greatest conqueror had finally been conquered by grief. Years passed. Suleiman aged into solitude. The empire grew, but its fire dimmed. He trusted no vizier fully, no son completely. His nights were spent writing verses to Hurrem. His days were spent wandering through her old gardens, touching the flowers she had once planted. "She said tulips would outlive us both," he once remarked, "and they have." He began to keep a single red tulip in a vase near his throne, replaced daily. The court never asked why. Even in his final military campaigns, the Sultan was a ghost among his soldiers. At the siege of Shaghetfur, he was too weak to ride, commanding from his tent. He watched the firelight flicker on his sword, and saw not the enemy, but Hurrem's eyes. A voice echoed in his mind, "Do you still fight for me, my Sultan?" When his generals came for orders, they found him silent, lost in thought. Some said they saw a faint smile on his lips, as if he was finally ready to rest. That night the camp was quiet. The Sultan lay in his tent, surrounded by candlelight. His breathing was shallow, his hands folded on his chest. He spoke softly to the empty air, as if to someone sitting beside him. "You said love is eternal, Hurrem. Was that a promise or a curse?" A ghostly whisper seemed to answer, "Both." Then, as the candles flickered, his eyes closed for the last time. The next morning, servants found the Sultan's body still, his face serene. Beside him lay a single, wilted, crimson tulip. The news spread like wildfire. Suleiman the Magnificent was dead. The conqueror of kings, the builder of empires, the lover of Hurrem. His body was returned to Istanbul and buried beside the woman who had been a slave, the woman who became the heart of his world. Even the sea seemed to weep that day, its waves crashing against the palace walls in mourning. After his death, scribes found hundreds of poems hidden in his chambers, all signed Mahibi. Most were about her. "The world is mortal, but love is eternal. The crown fades, but your smile does not. If I ruled the stars, I would still bow to your light." These words were copied and shared, and through his poetry she lived again. Today, visitors to Istanbul still visit their tombs, two marble domes standing side by side. Between them grows a single rose bush, its blossoms as red as fire, blooming year after year. Some say it sprouted from the tulip he held when he died. Others say it is Hurrem's spirit, refusing to let go, whispering, "We are one, my Sultan," even in silence. History remembers Suleiman as a conqueror, a lawgiver, a king among kings. But in truth, his greatest empire was built in a single heartland, destroyed by its loss. For when Hurrem died, the empire did not lose its queen. It lost its soul. The man who ruled the world became what he had always been beneath the crown, a lover, broken by time. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more tales from history. See you in the next one.